Hello and welcome to Gift Central and the Hero Spouse. I am Kendra Ruth, coming to you on the week of Christmas to answer some of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse. Her bomb drop is February 26th of 2022. Date of marriage is 2002. She has a clinging boomerang who's a low-energy wallower. She says, I thought that my original bomb drop was August, which was the day he left. But you told me in a previous question that it wasn't since he had made comments about being done prior to that. I now believe bomb drop was at the end of February. You'd said that he sounds like a clinging boomerang because we would text back and forth when the alienator wasn't around and because he's moved back home. And that moved back home was really the key to that. The in and outs can be more indicative of a clinging boomerang. Let's go on. I have since had to kick him back out of the house due to his not respecting my boundaries. Since he's been gone, contact is rare. If I need to, I can text him and he responds hours later, and his responses are very short. Is it common for a clinging boomerang to change contact type? If bomb drop was in February, how could I have not noticed anything was wrong? Are they that good at hiding it? Looking back at pictures, I can see the unhappiness in his face, but we were living life as normal. I often question if it's MLC or was he just unhappy? Even though what he's told me is script. I hear that last little bit so often. I wonder if it's MLC, but he hits all the check boxes. Everything's script. That's a person's own self-doubt, thinking that this is people can just fall out and become unhappy. Or maybe they really are unhappy because of a midlife crisis. So, yeah, both can be true. He's unhappy, but maybe that's why he's unhappy, or some of the things that are helping to enable the unhappiness. So, right now, we're not at a point where we would think about, can a clinging boomerang change contact types? Usually we see a consistent contact type, but that can happen. But the first year after bomb drop can be up and down as they kind of figure out the stability of this new normal. Meaning they might end up being a vanisher. But in the very beginning, when the light is still visible at the front of the MLC tunnel, when they haven't gone all the way in, things haven't gotten to the MLC gets worse point. It's always getting worse, but it's still going to get more worse. They are doubting themselves. So there's a lot more back and forth, mixed messages in the beginning. And that's clinging boomerang territory. So I don't really give a full diagnosis of their contact type until, with clinging boomerangs, I'll admit I can really tell a little better, but I don't want to have a solid, yes, that's what this type is until a year, because I want to get a feel for that on a longer term rather than just a few weeks or months. You're getting close to that. You are getting close. So he could be a boomerang, but it could be a clinging boomerang. The way a person is a clinging boomerang isn't in the frequency, but in the type of contacts. Now you're saying you can text him and he responds. So that's definite boom type. He is a boomerang. Is he the clinging type? That is, if he continues to occasionally come home, that would be clinging. It's the level of type of connection. Is it emotionally connected? Are they missing you? Or are they telling you to wait for them? Or please don't live hope in me? Or even I'm so sorry, you were a great spouse. They seem a little more either angry or indifferent if they're just a boomerang, if they don't have the clinging type. But also, you can go for long periods of seeming one and still being a clinging boomerang. What is the alienator doing in this? What is her influence on him? Alienators are the puppet master. And sometimes we aren't aware that the odd behaviors we're seeing from our spouse is really due to the alienator. Sometimes because they're in a high conflict relationship. Sometimes because they're secret keeping from her. Or they're not allowed to contact because of her. The alienator is, they're not a marionette. Your MLCer is a hand puppet and her hands up is. So think about that as well. You can't always tell depending on how close you are to him and kind of contact. But that's always a factor to consider. So let's continue and look and see. So how did you not notice anything was wrong? Well, I don't know the type of bomb drop that you had in February, since you didn't really recognize it, and it was another 6 months before he up and left. Did it feel like he up and left? Or could you feel things gradually changing from that bomb drop and you were aware? Were you in denial? That would be the biggest question. Was he said he wasn't happy and he was done. You didn't say unhappy. You said he made comments about being done. That is a lot more specific than I'm really unhappy, but being done. And you're referencing being done with marriage. So what in you didn't accept that? That's what I would say is, how did you notice anything was wrong? You didn't want anything to be wrong. And then when he, after he said it, did nothing about it, he didn't back up his statement with any more statements or actions. It was easier for you to stuff it down and go, yeah, whatever. We all probably would have, or many of us, because things got normal the next day maybe. And it's not abnormal for somebody to express being unhappy, but to express being done is the idea of an action. Unhappiness is an emotion. It doesn't mean there's an action behind it that you're saying, what are you going to do about it? Being done means I want to be doing something about this. So that's where my question is not so much as why didn't you notice? Because you remember this conversation. Why didn't you accept it? And it may have been because he didn't take it that way either. And you were like, good, thank goodness. And you just did some rug sweeping, is my bet. Okay. If he's got the script, he is probably in a midlife crisis. And maybe it makes it easier for you. Maybe it makes it harder for you. What does it mean if you weren't in a midlife crisis? Oh, he was just unhappy. Unhappiness can change too. It can mean he's in a depression. Midlife crisis is a type of depression. People who are unhappy become happy again. Should it make the biggest difference that he isn't having a midlife crisis and there's some other reason for his leaving? You already know he fits the signs of MLC. But we try and think, if it's not an MLC, then I can't do this. And if it's limerence, let's say that it's not MLC, but he fits all the signs, because limerence is what midlife crisis and escape and avoid looks like. So he's going to fit the signs anyway. Okay. What do you do? Are there things that you should do differently because it's not? Not necessarily. Your main job is to heal. That means detach. Put under that a foundation of grace. He's not the enemy. He is going through a crisis. He's confused. He's been pulled apart by his hormones and whatever limerence is doing to him. He is being controlled by somebody else. And yeah, it's his fault. He's accountable for it. But it doesn't mean that the core person inside is gone forever. It really doesn't. It doesn't mean they're going to come back forever. It doesn't mean they're going to come back better or worse. We don't know what they're going to come back at the end. What they will come through when they have either come through the tunnel or they're just kind of become a cranky codger. Some people do that. You'll have a job, and it's not about what he's going through. Your job is to heal. Your job is to be there for your family. If you have kids, it's to be there for those children and co-parent. So if that's the case, then you're still going to have contact through that method. Be grace, be kind, be gentle, be firm, and with boundaries. And that's where the challenge is, because he's going to monster at you for having boundaries and being firm, and you just want my money, or even if he doesn't have money. I was a gold digger. I can't find the gold. Sorry. But you're interested in me for this. You just, you know what? I'm really sorry you feel that way. And you say it softly. And you might add something that's like, I chose to marry you. I chose not to divorce you. I chose to stay married to you. And given the choice right now, I'm still choosing not to divorce you. That's you. That's your choice. Very kind, in a softness. Because I talked in the previous video that I made for you last month about rooting it in empathy. Go back and root everything in empathy in all your conversations with him. If you're having voice conversations where it can be heard. When it comes to text, I don't text, so I don't really know how to put that in other than with emojis, and I'm terrible with emojis. So anyone texting might know better how to do that. I'm sure it must be possible, but it's beyond me. My preferred is if you can have somebody where you can at least hear voices. But it's going to be a long road, okay? Even if you divorce, it doesn't mean he's through his crisis. It doesn't mean he won't want to come back someday or come forward and come home. But right now he's being pulled apart by a shadow and an alienator. Remember what alienator means. I call them alienator because they are an alienating force. It is a force that pulls the person away from you and is in opposition to you. The goal of an alienating force is to split you, the two of you, apart. Okay? So I hope this helps, and I'll see everybody else in the next question.